Today, Donald Trump has tapped Robert F. Kennedy Jr. to run the Department of Health and Human Services. What might Trump's appointments so far tell us about the coming administration? And as internet star Jake Paul squares up against boxing legend Mike Tyson, Netflix hopes to cash in. It's Friday, November 15th. This is Reuters World News, bringing you everything you need to know from the front lines in 10 minutes, every weekday. I'm Christopher Waljesper in Chicago.
Today I nominated him for, I guess, if you like health and if you like people that live a long time, it's the most important position, RFK Jr. Bobby?
Donald Trump has nominated Robert F. Kennedy Jr. to lead the Department of Health and Human Services. Now, Kennedy is a former Democrat and independent presidential candidate and has been criticized for his claims around the risks and efficacy of vaccines. He's also come under fire for his stance on state and federal lockdowns during the COVID-19 pandemic. Kennedy disputes the anti-vaccine tag, saying he wants more rigorous testing of vaccines instead. As head of HHS, Kennedy would oversee the Food and Drug Administration, the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, and the National Institutes of Health, which have a budget of around $3 trillion. Our reporter Stephanie Kelly covered Kennedy on the campaign trail. What do we know about how Kennedy might approach this role?
So he has said he'll try to address what he calls the chronic disease epidemic, which includes conditions like obesity, diabetes, autism. He also has really emphasized that he would want to reduce chemicals in food, and food toxins are a major issue in the US. He has also stated that he would gut the Food and Drug Administration and he would replace hundreds of employees at the National Institutes of Health.
Will he get through confirmation hearings?
I think that a lot of people did not take his campaign as seriously. You had the stories about how he had a brain worm a decade ago, and he's now since recovered, he said. He also had a sexual assault allegation come to light. And when he commented on that, he said that he had so many skeletons in my closet. And that's a quote. And I do wonder how that might play into some questions that he gets asked during his hearing.
The news of RFK Jr.'s appointment is playing into markets across the pond. Shares in European vaccine makers fell in early trading Friday. Britain's GSK and France's Sanofi were both lower by more than 3%, and AstraZeneca was down 2%. And if you want more markets and finance, check out Reuters Econ World, our weekly podcast looking at the economic ideas driving the news. This week is all about climate change and happiness. You can catch it on the Reuters app or wherever you get podcasts. Trump's announced a flurry of cabinet picks this week, and some, like Matt Gaetz for Attorney General or Pete Hegseth for Secretary of Defense, are getting more pushback than others. But we wanted to step back a moment. What is it that all of these appointments have in common? James Oliphant covered Trump's campaign and is now reporting on the transition.
There is a commonality. These are people who have been on stage with Trump. They've been at Mar-a-Lago. They've been on Fox News and other conservative media, and he has a level of trust with them that he may have lacked with some of his appointees back in 2016 when he was relying on the judgment of other people, frankly, for some of these jobs. I mean, this time around, it really feels like Trump is in charge, and he is picking the kind of people, for better or worse, that he wants in these jobs who will carry out his policy priorities and will not have their own agendas. Trump wants people who he doesn't feel like will undermine him, and he wants people who will defend him on television. And one thing that just about all of these picks have is they're good on TV. They're experienced at defending Trump and his policies, and Trump believes in the power of the media, and he has set his cabinet up almost to be like a collection of talking heads, a collection of pundits.
Matt Gaetz' confirmation is coming under increasing scrutiny, with a top Republican lawmaker saying he wants to review an unreleased ethics report on Gaetz. Senator John Cornyn, who holds a top spot on the committee that will consider Gaetz' nomination next year, says he and other lawmakers should get access to the report by the House of Representatives Ethics Committee. The committee looked into allegations of sexual misconduct and illicit drug use against Gaetz. He denies those allegations. In an echo of the Soviet era, Russians are informing on each other over their views on the war in Ukraine. Russian rights group OVD Info has recorded 21 criminal prosecutions in politically motivated cases based on denunciations since Russia's invasion. Reuters was unable to independently confirm those numbers. Russia's Justice Ministry did not respond to requests for comment, and Vladimir Putin's spokesperson, Dmitry Peskov, says the Kremlin does not comment on court rulings. Sri Lankan President Anura Kumara Dissanayaka's leftist coalition has landed a thumping victory in a snap general election. His Marxist-leaning National People's Power has won a two-thirds majority of the parliament seats that were up for grabs. That hands him the power to push through his plans to fight poverty in the island nation, which is recovering from a financial meltdown. The Onion is buying InfoWars. The parody news site picked up conspiracy theorist Alex Jones's website at a bankruptcy auction. Jones filed for bankruptcy after courts ordered him to pay $1.5 billion for defaming the families of those killed in the Sandy Hook school shooting. U.S. bankruptcy judge Christopher Lopez said at a court hearing that he had some concerns about the transparency of the auction.
I don't even feel it. He's angry. He's an angry little elf. Mike Tyson, I thought that was a cute slap, buddy, but tomorrow you're gonna...
YouTube star turned boxer Jake Paul, after Mike Tyson slapped him at a weigh-in before tonight's boxing showdown in Arlington, Texas. The 58-year-old grandfather and boxing legend had just 2 words for the 27-year-old influencer.
Talking's over.
While roughly 80,000 people will watch the match in person, it's also being streamed on Netflix, where 280 million subscribers can tune in. Our sports reporter Rory Carroll is covering the fight and all the buzz around it.
The general public is fascinated by this, clearly. Everyone's talking about it right now. Boxing has a long history, especially in the United States, of rags to riches story, much like Mike Tyson did to make it to the top of the sport back in the late 80s, early 90s. Or these internet celebrities like Jake Paul crashing the sport, but he also loves to be in the spotlight and he loves, making money. So it definitely works for him. For Mike, he stays relevant in the sport. He gets to continue to push his brand with a younger audience.
Now, these fights were big moneymakers for pay-per-view. How does a service like Netflix cash in?
This is about 2 things. It's that global reach, because it's going to be available around the world through a streaming platform as opposed to the old model. And then you've got this intergenerational thing going on where they're hoping to track the older viewers who grew up with Mike Tyson, and then these younger viewers that know Jake Paul through his social media and now his foray into the boxing world.
Okay, so who's favored to win?
Well, right now, Jake Paul is the favorite. It almost seems weird to say that, given that Mike Tyson was one of the most fearsome heavyweights of all time. But Jake Paul he's more than 3 decades his junior at 27 years old. Mike, on the other hand, this fight was initially meant to happen in July. It got pushed back because he had an ulcer flare-up. So no one's totally sure what to expect from Mike Tyson. He hasn't fought professionally since 2005, but Jake Paul is the favorite.
And as you head into your weekend, a recommended listen for you. Tune in to Reuters World News tomorrow for a special episode on Iraq's missing Yazidis. Nearly 2,600 Yazidis are still missing, a decade after Islamic State rampaged through their Iraqi heartland. Most are feared dead, but hundreds could still be alive. It'll be in your feed Saturday morning. And we'll be back on Monday with our daily headline show. For more on any of the stories from today, check out Reuters.com or the Reuters app. And to make sure you never miss an episode, follow us on your favorite podcast player or download the Reuters app.